It is Norbert Sochukwudinma, South Chairman and Spokesman for the National Forum of APC LGA Chairmen. We're discussing the battle for the Senate presidency in the 10th National Assembly. All right, Pastor Norbert, now I would like to know why is your forum supporting the Northwest for speakership?
Okay, before I respond to that, I like to drive the point home. I was saying that the Senate President is the chairman of the National Assembly. And so a leader that will occupy it will be a leader that is ready to serve, a servant leader, not a bossy leader. And most distinguished Senator Osita Izunaso fits in absolutely. He's not going to rub shoulder with the Senate President. Neither is he going to be a rubber stamp Senate President, because he knows his onions, but he will respect, regard, and carry everybody along. Now, for the speakership, why we considered, our forum considered the Northwest for it is because currently the national chairman of our party is from the North Central. So if they have the deputy Senate President, it's fair enough, so that the Northwest will have that speaker. And the deputy speaker, I was mentioning names also of the persons we considered after our due consultation across the states and the local government. For the deputy Senate President, our forum in our press statement resolved and are suggesting, begging, that Mohammed Sani Musa should be supported for that position. For speakership, Honorable Tajuddin Abbas. And for deputy speakership from South, Honorable Reverend Francis Ejirogene Waive, representing Uyeli North and South Stroke Udu Federal Constituency from Delta State, is also being put forward by our forum. We are praying for them, canvassing for them. We do not have votes on that day. We are not going to be in the floor of the House to vote. But you know the interesting thing, most of those senator-elects and House of Rep members elect are our leaders. They were all voted from the polling units. They were all voted from the grassroots. So as we are making this statement, we are begging them. I seize this opportunity on behalf of the forum of National Forum of APC local government chairmen, the party chairman, to beg all our senators elect in the APC, our House of Rep members elect in the APC, and all other senators elect and House of Rep members elect in other political parties to consider these men. All the senators elect will beg you, support Osita Izunaso. He will give you the needed leadership. He will give Nigeria the needed leadership.
So because you mentioned the precarious situation that led to the emergence of leadership of the 8th National Assembly, what do you think the APC should do to ensure that this contest does not lead to divisions in the party and the country?
Beautiful, beautiful question. Thank you for that. What our leadership, the leadership of our party should do, that's what we have been appealing, begging, is not to be moved by any form of sentiment, but to take strong political decision. Decide outrightly. Senate President, go to Southeast. Once that happens, the number of people contesting will be reduced. If it is thrown open, like what happened in the 8th Assembly, such a thing could happen again. But if it is zoned to a particular place, Southeast, as we are advocating and begging, only senators elect from APC in the Southeast will be contesting. And most likely, only the ranking officer. So it will just be between Osita Izunaso and Ojos Okalo, for instance. That thing that happened in 8th Assembly will not happen again. If they also take the Deputy Senate President to North Central, only those people from there in the APC, the majority party, will contest. The same thing to the speakership and deputy speakership. For instance, if deputy speakership is successfully zoned to the South-South, I can tell you that all the members elect from that South-South and others will queue behind a reverend gentleman, Right Honorable Francis Ejirogone Waive, because they know him. He's a man of integrity. He is a man who is also humble, down to earth, ready to lead. So for us not to run into that trouble that we ran into in the 8th Assembly, the leadership of our party should kindly, without much ado, zone these 4 positions to the remaining 4 geopolitical zones.
All right. Now, that leads me to my next question. Some analysts are of the view that the president-elect should show interest in who become leaders of the National Assembly. Do you agree he should take such a stance?
Definitely. But I know him to the extent that he's a Democrat. Even if there is someone he has in mind or interest to support, he's not going to lord it over anyone. He will wade in his influence, as usual, in his leadership style, that everybody will be happy. But certainly, a president must be involved directly and indirectly of those that are to lead the National Assembly. Because the leadership of the National Assembly will go a long way to determine the success of the incoming administration. If they have, for instance, if Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, our incoming president, will be sworn in 29th of this month, if he becomes, maybe he doesn't care about it, and someone who sees himself to be at the same level with him, someone who even sees himself as to be bigger than him, clinches that position of Senate president and becomes antagonistic to him, his leadership as executive, as the executive arm of the government, as the president, will suffer. But if he puts interest, he's not going to vote, but they will listen to him. Before he became president-elect, he has been influential because of his leadership style. He's a wonderful mentor who has raised great leaders across the nation, which helped him in the electoral victory. So the same style, he's going to use it certainly, but he will not force it, he will not lord them, he will not compel anybody. Once he gives his body language that this is the man I feel will work with me and give Nigeria the needed progress, the needed repositioning, all other members elect, especially from the APC, are going to align themselves. So I'm saying that the president-elect and the vice president-elect, because it's a single ticket, 2 of them are working together, will play a part, play a role, and determine who these leaders of the National Assembly will be, but in a democratic
let's talk about
pattern and way.
Party representation. Let's talk about party representation at the National Assembly after the conclusion of elections. How will you describe it?
Recap, please.
Let's talk about party representation at the National Assembly after the conclusion of elections. How will you describe it?
Okay. The party representation after the elections at the National Assembly, for me, is a clear indication of the credibility of the 2023 general elections. In the sense that, well, before I drive this point home, there is no perfect election. In this 2023 general election, there were imperfections, but it's the most, I say it without reservation, the most credible election we have had. The Labour Party has good number of House of Rep members. They have about 7 senators. The NNPP has the PDP and all that. In that election, about 10 serving governors who had desired to be voted into the National Assembly, the Senate, they lost election. They lost election to people who you have not even heard their names. They lost election to people who are wealthier, richer, and that they are influencer than. It's because the election was credible. So the party representations in the National Assembly will see, I attribute it to the credibility of the election to a very large extent. Otherwise, all those governors who lost the elections would have won if it were business as usual.
All right, so, this is the first time that opposition parties won.
To add this to the point I made, that another good thing, the impact the party representation is going to make in the National Assembly is that it's going to give a robust leadership. It's not going to be a one-way traffic. If you check what is happening now, the opposition parties are forming alliance, making move. That is politics, lobbying, discussion, having conversation, judging issues. At the end of the day, because no one political party, I think in the House of Reps, all the opposition parties put together are slightly higher than the members of the ruling party. Before, the ruling party can have more than 2/3. So whatever decision they take, there will be no voice elsewhere. So the party representation now will help that National Assembly to have robust conversation, debates that will give us good legislation.
Pastor Norbert, but the opposition caucus has resolved to clinch the position of the Speaker of House of Reps as they have 182 seats, which is, more than the statutory benchmark of 181. What will this mean for governors if they succeeded?
From my experience and how much I have followed politics, it will be almost impossible for opposition, no matter their numbers, to take the position of the speakership. The party that has the majority will definitely produce the next speaker. What the opposition party members are going to do is to see how they align themselves. That is why all of them are waiting for the zoning of the ruling party. Because it's the ruling party which has the majority that will determine most likely who the Senate President, who the Speaker, those other legislators will just align themselves with the body language of the party. So for me, it's not something we should be thinking about because it's not going to happen.
All right, so let's talk about the current National Assembly. Many Nigerians see the outgoing Senate leaders as mere rubber stamp. Do you see the next Assembly towing this line?
First and foremost, I disagree totally with anybody who sees the Ninth Assembly as rubber stamp. I disagree totally. You see, respect is reciprocal. The leadership of this current National Assembly has only been responsible, has only been patriotic, have only been respectful. There are so many things they achieved that even the antagonistic 8th Assembly couldn't achieve. For instance, the Electoral Act that we are using now that introduced beavers, that gave us the kind of credible election to this extent that we have, it is the work and the good work and effort of this current assembly. There are issues. You don't need to be antagonistic as a leader of the National Assembly for people to know that you are working. So those who see them as rubber stamp are those who are oblivious, those who are uninformed, those who do not understand how the system of governance works. So, because
thank you for
don't
that.
believe.
Let's quickly move on. Because of time. It's about 26 days to the inauguration of a new president. What are your expectations?
Yes. This question is an exciting question for me. My expectations are very high and wonderful. The renewed hope manifestos are things that I will see to be implemented. The president-elect and his vice, Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Senator Kashim Shettima, both of them led in their various states. And the work they did are there. They are open secret for anyone to see. So I see this coming government, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, one, to bring a united Nigeria, more united than it is. Our major division now is more on religious and party lines. But I expect President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu, when he is inaugurated with his vice, to do everything possible to bring a united Nigeria, a secured Nigeria, a peaceful Nigeria. And the first step is what we are begging for. Let them take the Senate President to Southeast, give it to distinguished Senator Osita Izunaso, and all other zoning be done. Pay due attention.
In 30 seconds, what key areas do you think should be of primary concern to the president-elect to turn around the fortunes of Nigeria? In 30 seconds.
Number one is unity, to get Nigeria more united. Number two is to work on our economy. Number three, security, to see that Nigeria is more secured than it is now. Number four is to generate power, so that those who are interested in doing small or all kinds of businesses will have opportunity to do so.
All right. Thank you very much, Pastor Norbert Sochukwudinma. He's the South-South Chairman and Spokesman for the National Forum of APC LGA Chairmen. And we've been discussing the battle for the Senate presidency in the 10th National Assembly. Thank you very much for coming on Politics Tonight. We look forward to more conversation with you. Thank you so much for coming.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you for having me.